Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I am your host, Nathan Ragland, and today we have an epic podcast ready for you. Today we have George Gant, a cartoonist with strips like On the Grind, The Reset Button, and Beware of Toddler in his repertoire. Our conversation was a fun little chat about his strips, his family, his love of video games, and so much more, and I hope you enjoy. If you do enjoy, please subscribe or follow on whatever platform you use to listen to the podcast. Also, follow us on Twitter at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements. And now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. Alright, George, before we get started, I must ask the icebreaker question I ask for every single podcast. What is your most unpopular art opinion?
I don't think I have one. To be honest, I don't think I have one because I mean at the end of the day, art is subjective. So I don't think that I really don't have one.
Like, there's not one that, like, you can say and people are just gonna turn around and be like, what was that? What? Huh?
With art, no. I mean, I can give my opinion about a million other things, but with that one, nah.
I mean, I say art, but, like, I'm also, like, casting a wide net myself. So it could be about, like, animation. It could be video games, music, just any sort of, like, thing that can be considered a medium of art.
Yeah, if I have to throw one out there, um, okay, I got one.
Okay.
Uh, just because art and different mediums and things like that is catered towards adult, and you have to have adult things in it, that doesn't necessarily make it good.
Okay. Okay. Care to elaborate on that a little bit?
Um, I think of myself as an all ages creator and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the things that I see are tailored towards um grown-ups pretty much, and not grown up in the sense where you have like gripping stories and things like that that grown-ups can understand, but people will throw in bad language or violence or nudity and things like that just for the sake of having them, and it's not going to make your product any better.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. So the I want to figure out the right way to word this. Basically, the forced addition of adult things for adult content. That's a hill you're willing to die on.
Absolutely.
All
It
right, there.
doesn't make the adult content good content.
There we go. And I cannot think of a better way to word it, and I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube, follow on whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Follow us on Twitter at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. He is a colorist, illustrator, and cartoonist who's been making strips since at least 2006, with 3 incredible ongoing strips online ranging from the epic world of video games to the reality of work and children. Please welcome to the podcast, George Gant. George, how you doing today?
Good. How are you
I
today?
am doing absolutely amazing and incredible. Thank you so much for taking time every day to sit down and just chat about your strips and such, because I don't know how long ago it was, but it was Beware of Toddler. That was the strip that I first noticed of you. I just thought that it was hilarious, kind of having the day to day, like, just the life of, dealing with a toddler, because you know it can be glorified sometimes, and when in reality it could be a nightmare sometimes, as you shown in your strips.
It's a beautiful nightmare.
A
Pretty
beautiful
much.
nightmare. There we go. But before we get into, you know, the strips themselves, I want to kind of more or less know the origin stories of you, of your art and such. What got you interested in art and cartoons and comics?
Man, I've been wanting to do this my whole life. When I was a kid, I came across a ton, like it had to be like at least 7 or 8, Calvin and Hobbes book collection,
Okay.
and I fell in love with the strip, and I fell in love with strips in general. Um, I would read those books left and right, and around the same time, I started drawing myself, and I realized, hey, I want to draw cartoons. And granted, I was like 8 or 9, So that was nearly 30 years ago, and years later, here I am drawing cartoons.
I mean, you say that like it's a bad thing. I mean, nah. I was gonna say, was it for you? When did it transform from just a love for the stuff to a possibility of making this like your life, your career, and such?
I would say it happened in two different parts of my life.
Okay.
Um, I like I said, I've been drawing since I was a kid. I was drawing in class. I wasn't doing my work. I was just drawing. And in high school, I went to the school's paper to the editor, and I just threw it out there. Hey, can I draw some comics? Right? She said yes. Now I love to draw, but at this time I hadn't drawn any comics of my own.
Right.
But I came through. I started doing editorials for the articles in the paper.
Okay.
Uh, People liked them. Uh, Lots of people liked them to the point where I won three citywide awards
Wow. Okay.
for my editorials, and I live in Chicago, so it's a lot.
Yeah, that is.
That's a pretty big award. Um, and I did that, and I did that for a few years. And after school, after high school, when I went to college, I started leaning closer to like graphic design and things like that. So I didn't really do much cartooning. And then after college, I'm working at Starbucks. I'm taking other classes on the side. I'm bored. I have nothing going on in my life, in my mind. And so I'm just sitting in a math class one day, and I don't see myself doing anything with the math that they're teaching us. And I'm
Yeah.
bored. I can't understand the teacher because of very heavy accent.
Mm-hmm.
So the language barriers alone is going to fail me. So I just started like drifting off, and I come up with like some cartoon ideas just out of pure boredom.
There we go.
And yeah, and it was a cool time because around this time is when like Family Guy started taking off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Around when Family Guy started taking off, when Adult Swim started, with like Aqua Teen and all those shows,
Mm-hmm.
and around that time is when I discovered Penny Arcade. And I saw like these guys are making comics every day, and they're awesome and they're funny, and I can draw and I like comics and I like video games. Why can't I do this too?
There we go.
You know, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I don't want to sling coffee for the rest of my life. Let's draw some comics. That actually led to the birth of my first webcomic,
Okay.
and around that time, that's when I realized, hey, look, I want to give it a shot. I want to see where this goes. And it didn't really go anywhere at first. It didn't really go anywhere until uh, about a few years after my On the Grind comic, when someone reached out to me with the idea of publishing my webcomics,
Well, there we go.
and that's when I started taking it seriously. When I started trying to learn more about like the business of making comics and not just making comics. And man, that must have been about 6 or 7 years ago.
Dang.
And here we are now.
Seems like forever, and with quarantine, and all that stuff, huh?
2020 alone has been 6 or 7 years, so I guess there's another 14 years since I put out that book. But yeah,
Yeah, goodness. Correct me if I'm wrong. The first one was it the reset button or on the grind? Which one was first?
okay, so it was the reset button.
Okay.
But here's the thing: there are two versions of the reset button,
Oh.
and the first one was from 2006, and I did a couple hundred strips actually,
Dang.
and it was me trying my best to do a video game comic in the Family Guy, Edgelord Aqua mold because I was an idiot in my 20s. But just like 2 years after I started that comic is when I started On the Grind.
Okay. Okay. There we go. Um, Before we delve too much into the strips themselves, I kind of want to know, like you said yourself, that like Family Guy, Aqua Team Hunger Force, like that was an influence for at least the reset button. What other sort of influences kind of like had an impact for what you produce as well as your art style?
Well, like I said earlier, Calvin and Hobbes, that was like the big one.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a big influence today. And Calvin and Hobbes was a big one. Bloom County was a big one. Of course, you have your Garfield and your Peanuts. Those are like the big four. There was also like Jumpstart and Curtis. Those were big ones, and still influence me to this day. And other than that, I was as an adult, I was influenced a lot by the Boondocks.
Okay.
Yeah, that was big around the time. But
Yeah.
I liked the cartoon, and then I discovered the comic strips afterward,
Right. Right.
and that was a big influence for me as well. Besides those comic influences, I've also been influenced by video game art.
Okay.
Because I grew up in like the 90s, the 80s and 90s, so I lived through the 16-bit era, and I was
Yeah.
just like I loved all of it. So I was influenced by the art styles um, as well.
All right.
And from there, while I'm not a big anime mega fan, I was also influenced around the same time by Tezuka.
Okay.
And I still there's still things that he did that I would actually like to do someday, that I would like to influence more on my work, but that hasn't happened yet.
It's coming though. It's coming. Definitely on the horizon at some point, right?
Yeah, it's on the way.
It'll eventually get here. I was gonna say, as I was doing my little research on you, I noticed I found your website that you have posted up. I was gonna say, like, when you first click onto it, the first thing that you see plastered across it is a TMNT fan art that you did. How much of an influence was like the shows like that on your humor and your artwork as well?
So I didn't mention Turtles, but that's in my top three like all time favorite franchises.
There you go.
And it was much like the Boondocks. It was all about the cartoon. Um, it was about the '87 series. I'm old enough to have experiences those films when they came out,
Hmm.
so I just watched Turtles all day. I would come home from school, Ninja Turtles, Ninja Turtles, Ninja Turtles. Um, even now, like I'll find myself trying to watch Ninja Turtles. I'm trying to get my kids to watch Ninja Turtles. I've got Turtles toys like back there. And that was a big one too. I don't know why it didn't pop in my head for me.
I mean, hey, I mean, sometimes you need something to remind you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I was gonna say something else that might remind you of another thing. As I was again, as I was trying to do my research and such, I noticed little hints of it here and there. But as a fan of it myself, how much of an influence was wrestling on some of the stuff that you did as well?
Well, the funny thing is, I'm not influenced at all by wrestling with my art, but
Right.
I am a fan. I
There you go.
noticed the shirt you have on,
Thank you.
so I am a fan. And one thing I have been doing lately is just like throwing in some wrestling
References here and
Easter
there.
eggs here and there. Yeah, I did a couple, especially for Beware of Toddler, but that was like the first time I've really tried it. However, I am a fan. I've been a fan. And yeah,
I mean, it's a good thing. It's always nice to find another fan out in the wild out there.
yeah, I think there's a lot of us.
Oh, I mean, if there's not a lot of us, there's a loud bunch of us, as you can tell from the Twitter community alone.
Yeah. Oh
I,
yeah.
yeah, no joke. I was gonna say, like the one that really got me like just laughing was the one that you did where you recreated the Undertaker Kane or Undertaker Mankind scene, and then like the panel below is just your daughter pushing off the brother.
Yeah, that was the first one. That was the first one. I don't even know where it came from. Like, I don't even know where it popped in my mind, because this was before they started doing all the Undertaker 30th stuff and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And I drew it this year, but yeah, I don't know what. I guess I just thought of bunk beds and thought Hell in a Cell. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Well, I mean, speaking of, like the influences from that, I want to go a little bit further. I know, like I said, you said yourself On the Grind was partially influenced by the fact that you were working the coffee job, but how much of your real life do you like to put into your strips? I mean, obviously, Beware of Toddler is one that seems. I think you. I don't know if that was the one. No, it was On the Grind. You said it was like quasi autobiographical, or something along the lines of that.
Yeah, it was pretty much on the grind. I did about 400 strips.
Oh wow.
I want to say the vast majority of the first year and a half were like one-to-one recreations. Like there was an early strip about a customer telling the main character to treat his POS system like a basketball,
Okay.
and it seems like a crazy racial joke and things like that. Because the customer was white and the main character was black, but I kid you not, that happened 100%. That was a complete true story. My second
Wow.
day working at like Caribou Coffee, that happened, and it blew my mind.
Wow.
So like when I decided to draw the comic, I knew that had to go in there.
Yeah, that would be something to people would look at and just be like, that actually happened. Like I imagine a lot of people were probably thinking that was a joke at first, but
That actually happened. A lot of it, like a lot of the early stuff with On the Grind actually happened. I'll write like, certain things to make it funny, but like the scenarios that it leads to completely real, and it's not just like exact things that happen, but I try to capture like the mannerisms of the people you deal with
mm-hmm.
and translate that to the comic, because it's not just a matter of, hey, this thing happened. It's also, this person is like this way and this is what would happen in this scenario. So I do that with On the Grind, and I do that with Beware of Toddler as well.
I was gonna say, like with Beware of Toddler, like you said, the first year and a half of that, how much was like real life stuff? How much of the stuff that you actually put in Beware of Toddler is like true 1-to-1, like it basically happened?
Especially with the early stuff, is I'll take a real thing that happened and then I'll make it funny. Um, I'll blow it out of proportion, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because in my mind, Beware Tyler is Tom and Jerry for 2020.
Oh, okay. I never thought of it like that before. That actually makes sense. Holy crap.
So that's my thought process with it. But a lot of it is true, and a lot of it's pretty accurate. I mean, I modeled the main character after myself and my daughter.
Right.
Um, like they actually kind of look like us, not 100%, but almost, almost there. And but a lot of things that happen, happens in Tyler. Like the first comic was when the Tyler was looking for the daddy, and the Tyler found the daddy, like in the closet. Like that's something that actually happened. I was sometimes my kids will start playing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just hide, and I'll see how long it takes for them to realize I'm missing, and they'll find me. Um, so it never like goes like past like 5 minutes.
Fair enough.
Because there are times I'll like make noises trying to get their attention. But that's the thing that happened. And then the second comic, when the toddler eats a crayon and then just instantly runs,
Mm-hmm.
that is something that has not only happened to me, but every single parent I have ever met in my entire life. so that one is what, like, that was the one that everyone loves, and that's the one that everyone can relate to the most because it's a real thing. That's what they do. It's crazy. Like that's what babies do. That's what toddlers do. And I just ran from there. Any crazy thing that my daughter did, I will put in a comic. And it's gotten so crazy to the point where, and this happened today. I was in my bedroom. I
Okay.
was I was getting dressed and I was things like that. And I had the door locked because the toddler was just busting the door because that's what they do. The door was locked. My daughter could not get inside, and I kid you not, she took a toy wand. And my door's older, so it has a keyhole.
Yeah.
So she took a toy wand and she put it in the keyhole, trying to pick the lock. Now, as crazy as that sounds,
Okay.
I kid you not, this is completely true. An hour before that happened, I came up with the idea of a toddler picking the lock in the comic.
Man, you're just on the ball with this stuff. Like you've come up with stuff even before it happens, huh?
Exactly, and so that's going to be a future comic. And yeah, and that was the wildest thing that blew my mind.
Yeah. I get.
She actually did it like
I was gonna say you gotta go like all out with it. Do like the Mission Impossible, like the classic, coming down from the wires and then like digging out the wand. It's just
I was thinking of that one. I was thinking of the Skyrim thing.
yeah, that's a good one too. That's a good one too.
The screen, so I'll have to draw it out. That's gonna be fun.
Oh, I certainly can't wait to insider's look of future comics people. Spoiler, my bad. Well, so we talked about like the real life influences with those, and we'll definitely talk a lot more about those. But I also want to give a little bit of love as well to the reset button as well, because the characters and the world that you developed for that one, like that one is insane. What made you come up with the concept for the reset button?
That's plainly like my love for gaming.
Okay.
Because I'm a big gamer, and like I said, the first reset button was because I love these edgy Adult Swim cartoons and things like that, and I love video games. I thought I put the two together, but with the second button, I decided to go for an all ages route, and it would be I want to retain the humor of the original, but I want it to be clean. So, because I wanted children to be able to relate to this character, and at the same time, I wanted to cram in as many video game references and Easter eggs as I can, almost like an educational tool, but not educational. Like you want to learn about the history of video games, look at that panel,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so that's pretty much where we're at now. I stopped doing a webcomic
Okay.
um, a year and a half ago. Pretty much once Beware of Toddler started, I had to put a lot of things on the back burner because that became really popular really fast.
Yeah.
Uh, but with the reset button, I decided that instead of doing a comic strip format webcomic, I'm going to go into full on comic book.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
And on my Patreon, I actually have like the first draft. It's actually drawn out,
Ooh.
like fully drawn out, on my Patreon page, available for read for anybody. Like you don't have to pay to read it or anything like that. Because I decided that that comic book I want to be a graphic novel now.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Sort of
So,
developing it more and more. I see. Okay.
so what started as a 22-page book is now going to be multiplied by five and an entire story.
Okay.
So I'm going to work on that. The 22 pages I drew, I decided to go back and rewrite a lot of it. And I'm going to redraw a lot of it and change some things up. And it's going to be like this great video game story that stands on its own. Video game references on every single page, video game Easter eggs, um, past and present, because it's also about the history of video games.
Oh.
Because the main character is the son of a main character in the Sega Genesis type era.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to finish that book because that's going to be like the big one.
I mean, I'm just first learning about this, and I'm already like ecstatic about it because that just sounds like absolutely incredible. I was looking through like different panels and stuff again, doing my research and such. I remember seeing somewhere that the fact that you described it alone as Tiny Toon Adventures mixed with crossed with Sonic the Hedgehog, like that had me sold in a heartbeat. Like I said, like the world and all these different characters and such. Like, how does this creativity flow from a person? That's what I have to know.
Well, when I came up with the idea, because the real idea was this would be a video game high school.
Mm-hmm.
This was before video game high school.
Right, right.
Um, and when that came out, I was kind of mad because I'm like, this is my idea. I came up with it. I came up with this comic. Nobody reads the comic. Everybody watches the show. So I was like, okay, how about we do elementary school? I can still do it. It's not going to be live action. It's going to be okay for kids. I have the copyright on the comic,
There you go.
so, so like I hold the copyright on this comic. So let's do this. Let's get it done. It's my first comic. Um, it's my most important one in my opinion. So I just need to sit down. I need to hammer out the rest of these pages. It's going to be like the largest world of any of my comics. Um, because it's going to be like Tiny Toon Adventures meets Sonic the Hedgehog. Throw a little Ducktales in there.
Oh, there we go.
So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait
I
for
was
it to be
gonna.
finished.
I was gonna say I know with the other two comics, obviously the main character is probably the one you best relate to. But for the reset button, which one of the characters do you personally like relate to the most? Like you put yourself in like this is as close to me as I can get.
To me in some way. My favorite character would just be Reset because he Reset to me is was me as a child.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do what I was supposed to do. I have all this great potential and whatnot, but I don't want to do what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to do my work. I need to learn to get my act together and make this thing happen. Um, and then the main characters of On the Grind. That was pretty much my life in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Beware Toddler is literally me as of the last year. So
I was gonna say it's you and your as an adult, as a parent, which is something that I think a lot of people can easily latch onto, and I think that could probably be the easy reason why a lot of people have noticed it. Have you been surprised with kind of the attention that your strips have gotten at this point?
I would have never seen it coming, especially on social media. But yeah, especially because I've been doing this for so long, it's kind of weird that you spend like 2 years doing a comic and some people know about it, and then you spend another like 6 years doing another comic and some people know about it, and then you do one comic in a day and thousands of people just flock to your site. That's it's crazy. Like I'll put it this way: I've done quite a few podcasts. I love doing podcasts. I love doing conventions.
Mm-hmm.
I have not done a single podcast until I created Beware Toddler.
Really?
Yeah, like none. So like it's insane that people like the comic as well as they do. And then as of late, they've been linking Beware Toddler to other things I've done, and that surprises me. I've had people say, "Hey, aren't you the guy?" Because well, before like in the middle of all of this, I used to draw like a lot of mashup art,
Okay. Yeah.
and I've done this mashup piece between Steven Universe and Steve Urkel. It was called Steven Urkelverse,
I saw that
and
one.
that was one of my favorites. But that the mashups actually went pretty viral,
Yeah.
and then people found out like that I was the same person that did that and Beware Tyler, and they were like, "Oh my God, you're the same guy." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I am." And then some one other person was like, "Oh my God, you're the same person that did the reset button. I used to like the reset button like helped us to create our own comics." And I'm thinking, really? Like I'm happy, but I hate every single comic I make after I make it. But no, it's been amazing. It's an amazing feeling that so many people can relate and people that can enjoy. And I'm not even talking about comics people, like like people like us that's in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking like people that don't normally read comics. Like that's where the majority of the Beware Tyler bits is coming from. Like people that wouldn't know comics outside of Marvel movies
Right.
flock to my comic, and I think that I can't tell you how incredible that is. It's scary, but it's incredible.
I can only imagine how scary it must be for you. But I think, for a lot of people, like I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's probably a good chunk of audience that do like your stuff that are, parents themselves. So like they see your comics and they like instantly like relate to it. It's like, yeah, my toddler does the exact same thing. My toddler did something similar to that and such. I mean, is that kind of the response you've been getting, or has it been just like a wide net of just like different people liking different things?
Well, that's the majority, and it's easy to understand. But a lot of people will just say, "Hey, it's funny." I get a lot of people say, "I don't have kids, but I love this comic." And
I'm
some
one of those
people,
people. I'll say I'm one of those people. I don't have a kid, but I cannot get enough of those comics. Those are just hilarious. But go on.
fantastic, like, and that makes me feel amazing. Sometimes it makes me feel like I don't want y'all to think that this is like a like a do not do list or whatnot. I don't want the comic to
Mm-hmm.
feel like hey, maybe I should not do this because the comic told me not to act like this. It's nothing like that. It's all in good fun. Parenting is hard, and a lot of it is you learn as you go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so don't take my comments as gospel. Just sit back, enjoy it.
If nothing else, you're just trying to tell a funny story for someone to just kick back and relax for a little bit. So
Tell a funny story. You can vent because kids are hard.
yeah.
A venting tool. That's where On the Grind came from. It was a venting tool. I was venting about my job. Um, yeah, and it's fun. It's something to read. It's clean. It's wholesome. In 2020, it's different from what you see on Twitter every single day.
Oh yeah, it's a nice break more than anything else.
So I mean, maybe except for that one massacre comic, but that anti-massacre comic, but that's another thing. But
I get into that.
yeah, no, shouldn't. But now I'm. It's all about fun, and at the end of the day, it's a comic.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to backtrack just for a little bit, real second, because again, while I was doing my little research for you, I saw like a bunch of that mashup art or whatnot. Personal favorite one, Fortnight. Just gonna say it, just John Cena Fortnight mashup. That one was just, it's brilliant, and funny enough, I could totally see like Epic and WWE eventually doing that at some point. Because it'd be easy for them to do. I feel like
Oh, they did not.
they did not. They did one with Brawlhalla, but they didn't do one with Fortnite.
Right, they did Brawlhalla and Rocket League, I believe.
Which the Rocket League one's like, okay, that's weird, but sure.
I'll bet money that they'll do it before the end of next year.
I mean, for God's sakes, with the recent announcements of the fact that they got Kratos, Master Chief, and the Walking Dead people,
Walking Dead.
Yeah, the fact they got those guys into Fortnite, I'm sure it won't be too long before WWE's or before Vince McMahon's like, ooh, yes, there's money here.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Just wait. You're going to see Becky Lynch. You're going to see Cena. You're going to see Roman Reigns. You're going to see The Fiend and The Undertaker. I'm certain of it.
I'm going to tell you right now, if there is a Fiend skin for Fortnite, I don't play Fortnite like at all. I will literally jump into the game just to get that skin because that Fiend is incredible.
That's what we'll do with Master Chief. Like, I don't really play, but I will buy Master Chief skin.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
If that's the case, Fortnite is winning. They want your money.
They are winning. You can like them all you want to. And me personally, I don't think it's a bad game. I don't like the building aspects. That's it.
Thank you.
But
I'm sorry. That's my major thing. It's one of those like I don't mind like a battle royale in general or whatnot. It's just I suck at building.
If they take out the building, I will play Fortnite happily. It's fun. It is fun. It's smooth. It's very smooth. It's just the building. I cannot whatsoever.
That's fair enough.
Like I don't even build when I do play. I don't build. I just go straight through.
There you go. It's one of those. If whenever I did play, I tried to find like a good group of friends that are like halfway decent at the game. They can take care of the building. I'm just gonna be trying to shoot the enemies.
That's all I want.
There you go. But with all this, with all this love and support that's been coming for your strips as well, and all the stuff that's been coming forward, what's been like your proudest or like the most surreal moment for you when it comes to your comics?
When I published my first book,
It
was an On the Grind book. Well, I had it published. It was that. When I did my first comic convention, like on my own, because the first time it was with my publisher, but the first time I did it on my own was amazing.
There we go.
And the day after I created, I want to say like the first month of Beware of Toddler, because I've never seen anything of mine grow that fast.
Yeah.
And the award nomination that came along with it too.
No, I didn't even see the award nomination. What award was it up for?
Nominated for what was it, like Rising Star award nominations. There were 3.
Okay.
Best webcomic and something else. I didn't win any of them, and I don't care. That's fine. I'm happy to be nominated.
I'll say the nomination alone is more than worth it. As a filmmaker with some of my posters on the wall right here, it's always incredible just to be nominated more or less.
Yes, I agree.
I just have to ask this real quickly. I don't know how well they can comprehend it, but how like does your toddler know that she's somewhat of a famous celebrity at this point?
Well, my top it's weird because my toddler's already like I don't want to say she's conceited, that she's arrogant, but she's very much look at me. I want to be the face of the center of attention type person.
Right.
And when she sees me making a comic strip, she'll be like, "That's me. That's me. That's Daddy." Um, and when I first started the comic, it was shortly before she turned 2.
Okay.
So she knew like a little bit. Hey, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. I mean, she's 3 now. She's like 3.5, so she can recognize all of it, and we can have conversations about it. But she's aware that's her or it's based on her.
But she
And
doesn't understand like the scope of like how out there she is yet, really, huh?
she doesn't know that, and that's good because I don't need her to grow an even bigger head that she
Yeah.
already has.
Probably for the best. 'Cause I was like, because next thing
Man,
you know, she'll probably like walk around thinking she's like the big boss around. It's like, yeah, it's your comic, but I'm the star. Like so along lines of that.
it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen if I keep this up for a couple more years. Like because she's about 2 years away from school, and oh boy,
you're already both dreading that, but also already playing the comics to go around that.
pretty much,
Oh,
man.
I can only imagine the back to school shopping one that's gonna start it off.
It's exciting though,
Yeah.
and I've still got time.
I mean, if nothing else, I mean, again, I don't know from experience, but I mean, like, raising a kid, like, it's hard and challenging, but it's also a blessing. So, I mean, if nothing else, the fact that you get to share this like little thing with her must be like, it must be incredible for you and your perspective.
It's, it is. It's crazy because I mean, it's a story about me and my kid.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you can't get any better than that. And I kind of wanted to feel that way with both of my kids because I have 2 children.
Right.
So I make sure that I incorporate her brother, like a character based on her brother, into that as well. And he totally gets it. Because he's at the age where he's starting to read comics. Well, he's reading comics on his
Okay.
own, and he loves comics now. Like many a night I'll go in his room and he'll have comic books in his bed, and I have to take him out of his bed, things like that. And he'll read Toddler, and even if there's a comic without the brother character in it, he'll still enjoy it, which is really nice.
That's good.
So that's pretty rewarding. At the very least, my kids are reading my comics.
Yeah. There you go. I was gonna say, like, I can only imagine how proud you must be knowing that, hey, this is something that your kids are gonna one day look back and think like this was our dad basically telling us our childhood more or less. So.
Yeah, they're going to be embarrassed at one point, I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure
I,
some.
I,
I'm sure some of the gross out ones. Your daughter's definitely gonna be more.
like when they become teenagers, it's going to be a pain. But it's my goal that if they're teenagers, something big happens with this comic, and if that's the case, and they can complain about me, and I can say, "Hey, you're eating." So that's my goal.
I was gonna say, hey, if nothing else, like at some point you have to, rebrand it to Beware of Teenagers. So I mean, might as well go ahead and prepare them for it.
Oh man, that'll be neat.
Yeah, there you go. um, I have to ask for you personally. Like, I know like this stuff is still growing to this day. Do you have like an end goal in mind with these comic strips?
Yes, yes. At some point, I'm going to want to switch mediums.
Okay.
I like comics. I like comics, and I hate to say this, but as much as I like comics, I did not get into comics um, with comics in mind. Like I
Okay.
thought about like the whole shebang. I thought about animation. I thought about I've always wanted my own cartoons,
All
my
right.
own animated cartoons like as well. With the reset button, I've thought up video games. Um, because you're getting to the point where you have one man studios making games. Um, and that's something that I think I can do. I like to do because in addition to drawing, I'm a big computer guy.
Okay. Okay.
So I grew up learning programming, things like that. I spent like when the pandemic started. My first thought was I have time to build my machine. So
There you go.
and so I built a couple machines over the last few months. So I figured, hey, maybe I can get this video game done for the reset button. That would be nice. I came up with a video game idea for On the Grind. Something smaller, but that would be nice. Uh, with Beware Toddler, I would like to see that in animation.
Oh, that would be.
I,
Yeah.
I think it would work really well, especially since I'm using the Tom and Jerry format pretty much. I think it would work really well for that kind of cartoon. Well, there are two ways to go about it. You can go the Tom and Jerry route, or you can go the family sitcom route. I think it will work in both.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of things that I would like to do that comics cannot replicate, especially with dealing with sound and whatnot. So that's pretty important to me, and that's a goal. Um, after I like get all this stuff set up with my books, I've got animation books ready to go.
There we go.
So that's the next step after my books are done, and I'm ready.
Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say, if you ever do want to make that jump to animation, I mean, as the podcast, I've been in touch with quite a few animators. I can recommend you to a few good people. So,
That would be great.
okay, I'm more than willing to help out if I can. Help out people in this art community. Um, so I want to get like a fun little dream scenario for you. Let's say a person comes to you and has like all how should I word this? Comes up to you and is like, okay, we've seen all the strips that you love, and we love every single one of them. We want to publish them, but we also want you to create a brand new strip that's completely original. What would be the dream George strip?
Man, I have no idea. But if they just like told me that like off the bat, I'm not gonna know
Fair.
because I'll be excited about the idea of creating a strip, but I wouldn't have the inspiration to create the strip.
Right.
Now, I genuinely would not know.
Okay. I mean, I was gonna say. I mean, sorry.
I have other ideas, but I think one of them may be taken, so I'm not gonna I can't talk about it.
Fair
But
enough.
I don't think I'll ever do it because I think someone else might have beat me to the punch. But I honestly would not know where to begin.
Okay. Okay. I mean, if nothing else, I mean, you've already done a lot with, and you've invested a lot of time and effort into the three strips you already do have. So, I mean, I imagine it'd be hard for you to come up with a fourth original idea.
Fourth strip. I'm actually working on a fourth strip. I
Oh.
I'm not. I didn't create it.
Okay.
I'm just doing the art for it.
Fair enough.
It's actually a big deal, but I don't know if I can talk about it yet.
We'll just keep on the download. Just tell people, hey, keep your eyes open because you got something big in the works.
Exactly.
I'm again. You've got me like excited for all this kind of stuff. Like it's incredible.
Thank you.
um. Well, let me ask this obviously generic question. Where do you hope to see yourself, say 5, 10 years from now with this stuff?
Well, 5 years is not a long time.
Yeah.
You just think, hey, 5 years is so long. I can do so much. That's not really a long time. Uh, well, of course, the animation thing. The animation thing, the books.
Mm-hmm.
The big one, the reset button book must be done. I'm already working on the toddler book, and the goal is to have it available in spring. Uh, I 5 years from now, I want to see the reset button. I mean, I want to see Beware Toddler animation in any way.
Okay.
Whether it's show on Netflix or YouTube Shorts or something. That's where I want to be 5 years from now. Full on working on these animations while still trying to find a way to produce the strips because I want to keep those going
Right, right.
as long as I have the material. Um, and in addition to that, I want to make sure I have more done with the reset button. Uh, the book, of course. The reset button is something I'd actually like to see in animation because there's a lot that I would like to do musically in regards to
Oh.
that. And just like sound, like I think about like sound all the time, and you can't do that in the printed book. So that's pretty much my two main things. On the grind, I I feel like now would be the perfect time to bring it back.
Now would actually be a good time, especially seeing like all the updated stuff with all the quarantine rules and seeing how all the shops have to like, be a certain way with all the masks and stuff like that. I can only imagine just how much chaos today's on the grind would bring.
Oh man, I've thought about that, and I've thought about ideas, and there's so much you can do with it. And the thing about On the Grind is kind of like my political cartoon.
Yeah.
I would beat you over the head with politics, but it's probably the most political of the three. And I could just do so much with the year 2020 alone,
Yeah.
but I just don't have the time. And unfortunately, all the things that I would like to do today would not be relevant in 5 years.
Yeah.
So that would be a challenge.
I mean, I will say, like, take away like just the pure political mask stuff alone. I mean, there's still a good bit of topics that you could talk about with On the Grind, like all the online ordering and all the super special drinks that were here that seemingly weren't here like 10 years ago or something like that.
Yes. Well, they were there 10 years. Oh, yes, they were there 10 years ago. I knew about them.
The world just didn't know about them.
Everyone knows about them. But yeah, maybe I'll do something on the side when I get a chance. It's
Okay.
all about time, man.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, animation. I would like to cross over to other mediums, especially with Toddler. That's where I want to be in 5 years. Like for purely special, selfish reasons, I want to make some money doing this stuff.
There you go. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing at all with that.
Sounds. Oh, you should love your craft. My craft don't buy diapers.
There you go. There you go.
But it's superficial. But yeah,
I was gonna say I can somewhat relate to you. It's kind of one of those like, hey, you should do the podcast full time. It's like I love the podcast, but no one watches it, so I have to work at the factory.
dude, it's like that. I worked in coffee shops and restaurants and things like that the entire time I was doing resetting and on the grind.
Wow.
And the only reason I left is because we found out. Well, I wasn't making a lot of money at my last job anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We found out we were having a baby and realized that it would be cheaper for me to stay home than to do daycare.
There you go.
And here we are 8 years later.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Could be worse. Could be a lot worse.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
I'm pretty busy as a freelancer, and I've got some pretty big clients under my belt.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not complaining, but I need more.
I need to refer you to a friend of mine because they were talking about how they had gotten a lot of commissions lately, and like one person was like apparently offering like $500 for a commission. I'm like, excuse me.
Those are the best ones. If it's like a single commission and you charge 500, because I did that once,
Mm-hmm.
and because it was a commercial thing.
Okay.
I think that if you're being commissioned to create something that they are going to make money off of, you should charge more money.
Okay. I was gonna say.
But I was going to say that, and even though I did that, I felt horrible about it. Like I felt like, is this right? Am I doing it? Is this the right thing to do? But I got over it.
Yeah, you got over it. I was gonna say that was that the what was it, the acrylic museum glass or something like that I saw on your website or something? Was that one or?
I mean, no, it wasn't that one. I mean, I made some pretty good money off of that. Like because well, with that one, because I did that for some some years. And what it was a glass company contracted me to draw comics for their client.
Mm-hmm.
Their client just happened to be Michaels.
Oh, okay.
So I was drawing these comics for Michaels like for years, and that was wonderful, and it was so much fun. And it got to the point where I started seeing some art inside the Michael stores themselves.
That must have been surreal
So
for you.
yeah, it was awesome, and I wish I could still do that because I don't think my art was very strong back then. So like if I did it now, I think I'd be a lot more satisfied than back then when I was still fairly new at doing comics. But that was a big one, and I've had some even bigger things since then. I did a Hulu thing a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
Um, it was a live drawing session, and it was to promote the TV show Woke,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and that was an amazing experience.
Oh, I can
And
only
I
imagine.
hope they, yeah, man, I hope they reach out to me and do that again because that was like some of the most fun I've ever had, like working in my entire life.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those. I'd seen the commercial for that show. I need to get a Hulu account more than anything else so I can watch it because it looks incredible more than anything else.
Yes, it's so good. It's so good. It's funny, and me as a creative, and as a creative, I think you will find a lot to relate to.
Mm-hmm. Well, there we go. With that, I have one last question for you. Obviously, as a cartoonist, colorist, illustrator, you're an artist at your core. How important is art not only for you but for the world as a whole?
I mean, there's art in everything. Um, like for me, it keeps me sane. You know, I won't go crazy if I draw, or I will go crazy if I draw. It's a double-edged sword. It's a catch-22. But But I mean, there's art in everything. People think that art is just drawings or cartoons or TV shows. No, you have clothing design, like
Yeah.
clothing. Clothing is art. Furniture is art. It takes a craft for furniture. Food is art.
Yes.
Like imagine if food looked disgusting but still tasted as good as it does. It wouldn't matter. So like there's art all around us, like and literally every single thing, um, single thing that is created by man is art, and even things that are not. I mean, look at the clouds. Like that's beautiful. That's in its way a work of art.
Yeah.
You know.
No,
So
absolutely.
like it's important to me. It should be important to everyone, and it should be taken more. It should be treated more importantly than it is. Um, yeah, you can talk about politics all day and night, but what about art?
Yeah.
I mean, the arts helped get us out of the Great Depression, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Um,
cause didn't FDR like commission a bunch of artists to do like post office or something along the lines of that, or
yeah, the parts of the New Deal, like it did a lot as far as hiring artists, and that was a big boom.
mm-hmm.
And even now, like we're in this pandemic and things like that, and things feel bleak. But the one thing that has become better and better is entertainment, which in itself is an art.
Yes.
So it's important. It's probably like, in my opinion, like one of the most important things, and should be treated much higher than it is.
I cannot think of a better way to word it myself. George, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to sit down and chat. I cannot thank you enough for what you do, both like with your art. I mean, your strips are either they're completely amazing and out of this world, or they're absolutely relatable, and like you said earlier, it's a nice little break of action from all the weird stuff that we're seeing nowadays. So once again, thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough, and I cannot wait to see what's next. So,
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to show it all off.
uh, well, for those, they definitely need to go over to your Patreon, which should be one of the links below. Go ahead and plug your stuff for the people.
Okay, yes, my Patreon is at George Gant. Well, pretty much all of my socials at George Gant Art. You can check out my portfolio, geogantart.com. If you want to read Beware Toddler, follow me at Beware Toddler everywhere. Or check out the website at bewaretoddler.com.
There we go. And like I said, I'll be sure to have all the links in below just for make sure that people can find it themselves. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
Thank you for having me. A lot of fun. I appreciate it. Please read Beware Toddler.
Please.
And tell your friends.
Oh, trust me, I'm making a podcast. This is the best way I can tell friends. Anyways, but for that, with everyone else, for everyone else at home, hasta luego, mi amigos.